You know, it can be scary to buy your very first home. I get requests all the time in the comments saying, Kris, make a video and help me overcome the fear of buying a home. Like, what are the hacks? How do I do it? Well, I'll tell you what, when I got in the game of Taekwondo, I had to learn how to break a board. And you know what? I saw someone break their wrist doing this exercise. I got 2 of them. And I'll tell you something, that when you actually know what you're doing, you can break boards, because now you know how. And guess what? When it comes to the game of buying a house, you can overcome your fear by learning the top hacks of how to take something that is fearful and difficult and making it super easy. Let's go. It was scary to break my first board, and then scary learning how to break 3 boards, and then 5 boards, and then more boards. And in the game of real estate, I remember how afraid I was, not only to buy my first house, but just there was new jargon and language, and there were these players. There was like title people, and there was the mortgage person helping me with the money side, and then there was this realtor person that was super scary to me that seemed to like make me sign things that I felt like I was signing my life away. And so you know what? I get it. And today I hope to help you overcome that, because we're going to talk about hacks for first-time home buyers. Not only that, I'm bringing a young man in studio that just today is in the process of buying a house, and I want to check in. I want to see how it's going. I want to see what he's learning, and I want to see if together we can level up this game. All right, I got 5 hacks for you today, and here's the very first one. You have to understand the different loan types. Might be new jargon for you. It's like, wait a second. There's a conventional loan, but I've also heard there's an FHA loan, there's a USDA loan, there's these things called ARMs. Okay, let's break it down real quick. Conventional. This is best for borrowers with good credit score that have no need for government backing. Usually a down payment for a home that you're gonna buy is 5%. Okay, well, 5% on a $300,000 home is $15,000. Is that my only option? No, it's not. You could do FHA. These homes come with competitive interest rates and help make homeownership possible for borrowers without a large down payment. And this is a government-backed loan, and you can do a loan with as little as 3.5%. So on that $300,000 home, that's gonna save you several $1,000s. Next, if you own real estate in the right part of town, you could apply for a USDA loan. USDA loans help moderate to low income borrowers who meet certain income limits that are buying homes in rural areas. Some do not require a down payment at all, as in literally 0 down government-backed loan if you're gonna be a little bit more rural. That's kind of cool. And then finally, an ARM. What is an ARM? ARMs are adjustable rate mortgages. They have interest rates that fluctuate with market conditions. They have a fixed interest rate for a few years before the loan changes to a variable interest rate for the remainder of the term. So it could be a 1 year, a 3, a 5, or 7 year ARM, where you're basically gonna lock in initially a low rate, might help you actually get into the house, but then after a period of time, it's just gonna adjust to whatever rates are. That's another option. So when you are shopping around for your first home, be aware that you're going to need a mortgage, more than likely, unless you're buying it cash, which would be kind of sweet. But for the 99.9% rest of us that aren't trust fund babies, we're gonna need some type of lending options. And all of these I've just shared with you range from 5% down to nothing down. All right, check it out. My second hack has to do with, we went and got ourselves pre-qualified, and with confidence we're going into the market, we're ready to find the house. And here's the second hack that I would give you, and I would say this is probably the number 1 mistake that first-time home buyers make all the time. They buy too much house. And this is an easy trap to fall into. Often, first-time home buyers see the amount the banks tell them that they can afford and assume that that should be their price. Banks and other mortgage lenders base your limits on gross pay before taxes and don't factor in that you have other expenses like property taxes, utilities, home maintenance, plus regular everyday expenses. All these should be taken into account when determining how much you can afford. It all comes down to what you can afford. And let me just pivot on this for just a moment. You realize that the secret to creating wealth, like making a lot of money, has to do with the amount of money that you can save and not spend. It's true, and that's because everyone is just unconsciously spending whatever people will give them. Don't do that. When it comes to your first house, it's not just a place that you're gonna live in. It's a place that is an investment. It's a place that's gonna grow and appreciate with time. It's a place you want to be a smart move. And a way to make it a smart move is to make sure that you're not overtaxed, that you're overburdened, or that you're taking on too much mortgage. Now, this isn't the only reason why I'm making today's video. The person that stands on the other side of this camera, his name's Ethan, and he and his brand new bride are literally in the process of buying their first house. And because he's been making videos with me for a little bit now, he finally has this courageous move. He's qualified and he's in the process. And I've been reliving my first home buyer's experience through him now 20 whatever years later, as I've just been witnessing some of the grueling mindset shifts and some of the common problems and errors. And so the remainder of this video is going to be me introducing you to Ethan and seeing what he's learned along the way. And this is Ethan.
Hey, how's it going, Kris?
Ethan, how are we doing, brother?
I'm doing so good.
This guy helps me make my videos. Give him a little round of applause.
Thank you.
Ethan, this third point right here, never go with the first lender.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so this was something huge that I learned when I started looking for homes. I had this family friend through my wife who we were gonna go through, right? And I was like, oh, you just go with this lender, right? It's a family friend guy. He's gonna do his best to give us the best rate, best everything, right? We go through him back in like October. And then a few months later, we found a house that we like, and he gives us an interest rate of 6.75. And I'm like, man, that's high. And then he's like, but you can pay like $8,000, $9,000 down, get it down to 5.25, which is great. And I'm like, okay, great, that's what we're gonna do. A couple weeks pass by, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel like there's something better out there. I just had this hunch that there's something better out there, right? So I go on these different websites. There's websites called like Lending Tree, Credible, and you can basically put in some very basic information, and they'll give you quotes from all sorts of different lenders across the country. You don't have to go with a lender that's in your state. You can go with any lender that's in the country, right? And so I got all these quotes, and I found the best one, and I picked one, and we start texting. It was a Sunday. He started texting me on the Sunday. 20 minutes after texting, he's like, dude, can I give you a call? And I'm like, sure. So we start calling. We start talking, and he gives me a rate at 5.25 with no buy down. I just saved $9,000 in like 2 weeks.
So first of all, I just got to ask Ethan, how old are you?
27.
Dude, freaking awesome that he's going after it, hustling and getting that first house. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And what I'm really excited is that you're learning that sometimes the family hookup is not a hookup, it's a hook down. I don't know what that means, but it's not good. And it means that you really should become familiar with not just the first bank that comes along, but you really got to explore all of your options, because you also learned you qualify for that USDA loan.
Yeah, so the first lender actually even said I didn't qualify for the USDA loan. He's like, you have to do an FHA, you got to put 3.5% down. It's going to get you like $13,000 on top of the $9,000 the buyer interest rate down, to where this other guy was like 5.25, no buy down, and we could do a USDA with 0% down. So he just saved us like 20,000 plus.
Yeah, and I think here's the important thing to know is that not all banks are created equal. They're not all operating under the same programs. What you have there are literally thousands of lending institutions that all have different guidelines. Some of those banks say, wow, we actually like where you're trying to buy a house, and we actually like your profile, so we have a special program that's going to look better than a lot of the other programs. It's almost like when you were like trying to go to college, you're like, do I qualify for any like Pell Grants, or can I get someone to help pay for some of my tuition or my college? And if you don't look, you don't know what's out there. And it turns out in the lending game that if you look, you're gonna find some really great options. Here's what Ethan's telling you. Make them work against each other. Use Lending Tree or Creditable or Bankrate. Basically, make sure that you're hunting down multiple options and finding the one that is gonna work best for your financial situation. I'm also gonna tell you that there's another criteria that I personally use in the lending world. I like to know how much volume a bank or a specific mortgage officer is doing. Because if someone is a family friend and they're trying hard to drum up business and they're closing like 2 or 3 loans a month, that's very different than someone else that is closing 20 or 30 loans a month. The person that's doing more volume usually has more favorable rates inside the bank itself. They can actually swing you a better deal because they have more pull, because they're doing more volume. And it turns out that the people that have more experience usually can get you something gooder in life. And so just be aware that there's a really cool hack here when it comes to the lending game. Also find the person that has a lot of experience or that is doing high volume, because they'll probably be able to offer you some other things that the less experienced people are not able to. All right, the fourth hack for today, your rate is not locked until it is. And here's what that means. The lending process is something that usually takes weeks. And part of it is your loan officer sharing with you what your rate would look like today, but it's not actually locked. And so there's been a lot of disappointment in the last couple of years, especially the last several months with rate hikes, where someone said, well, my lender quoted me, 5.5%, and then 2 weeks later they said, hey, are you ready to lock? Rates have gone up. Now it's 6% or 6.25%. And it's like, wait a second, I had really settled in on the first rate that you quoted me in the beginning. And the reality is that rate doesn't get locked until it is. And so we're going to come back here to my friend Ethan. Let's talk about this one a little bit, right? Because you worked with a couple of banks, and you had one bank that originally was quoting you a higher interest rate of what?
It's like 6.25-ish.
Okay, but and they were doing something I've actually never heard of in lending before. They said for every week that you want to keep that locked, they're going to charge you a fee.
Yeah, they charge. Yeah, they had a certain fee to keep the rate locked for that period of time. And then if you don't lock it every day, especially how volatile the market is right now, it could go up 0.5% or more. So like it kind of scares you into wanting to lock as soon as possible.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you found a different lender and they had a lower rate. And when they locked, did they have a fee for locking?
Nope. So the 5.25% lender I talked about previously, 30 days free to lock your interest rate. And it was interesting because I locked at 5.25. The next day he calls me up and he says, dude, they just went to 5.75. Good thing you locked. 30 days free. And I also get with this lender, you get one free buy down as well. So let's say rates go down to 4.75 somehow. I can go down to 4.75 one time for free. And then I'm locked at that new lower rate. And some banks charge you to go buy down as well. So you kind of have to just ask your lender, do you charge to lock the rate and do you charge to buy it down if it goes down?
So basically the first decision is to pick the lender that you are going to go with after you've explored your options. And then the second one is you don't really know what your rate's going to be until you actually lock it in. All right, the fifth hack for today, be prepared for anything, which means come to expect the unexpected. When I bought my very first house, I remember sitting at the closing table. I didn't have a friend there. I didn't have my wife there. I didn't have a mentor there. I was alone with strangers. And they were explaining the paperwork, and I just felt so skeptical. And I remember when I was all done and I signed it hours later for the final signature that I got up to leave, and as I went to go to my brand new home, who shows up? It was a realtor. And the realtor didn't help me find this home, but I did sign an exclusivity agreement with them. And he said, well, I see that you bought a house, so now you owe me a commission on it. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. I did sign that paperwork with you, but you didn't help me find this house or transact this house or do anything. He says, I know, but according to the law on this paperwork, you owe me this money. And I remember that I had to write him a check out of my pocket for really money I didn't have. And it was very frustrating. Now, mind you, I bought that house $40,000 below market. My basement rental covered my entire mortgage, so my wife and I were living for free. Sold that house a couple years later, made $60,000+ on it. It was the great start to our investing career, but there were some unexpected things that happened along the way. Ethan, today you have something a little unexpected going down for you because you're nearing the finish line where it's time to close on this deal. But let me ask, are you actually going to follow through on the deal?
Nope, we're backing out today.
And why are you doing that?
A couple of reasons. So we found out that the USDA had some requirements that our lender didn't really tell us about and that we didn't figure out until last week. And so that kicked back on us. So we had to go back to actually he was giving us a 3% down conventional loan, which is kind of cool because my credit score, I was able to qualify for that. But still, we had to put down money that we didn't really have. We were kind of banking on the 0% down, right? We're gonna have to put down our entire savings in a down payment.
So you would have had, you literally would have had zero savings.
Zero savings.
But not only that, but the price point on this house was what?
Yeah, it was $390,000, which, and then our debt to income ratio barely squeaked by. He kept saying that too. The lender was like, you're just squeaking in, right in there.
Like, if you close on this is the max you can qualify for.
Exactly.
It's gonna empty your savings account, and this mortgage is gonna be a stretch. So even though you technically could have done it, why did you decide not to?
Because of that number two, the house poor. I didn't want to be house poor. I didn't want to put myself in a situation where my mortgage payment was going to be way more than I made. Well, not more than I made, but like more than half of my monthly income, right? And then this house can do one or two things. It can either set us up for our future, me and my wife, and can put us in a really good situation like it did for Kris, or it could put us in a giant hole, right, that we have to climb ourselves out of. And I just didn't want to get put in that hole.
Well, I want to give you a little hack right now. What Ethan's doing actually is really smart because he's managing what's called his debt to income ratio. Instead of qualifying for the maximum amount of debt that a bank will lend him on, what he's doing is he's saying, you know what, I'm going to go for something less expensive and I'm going to keep some of my debt to income freed up. Why is that smart? Well, if he chooses to actually rent out the house or do a lease option and put someone else, some other family in the house, by the time they're done paying the mortgage, and there's positive cash flow with that leftover debt to income ratio and applying the rents on that house, guess what Ethan can do? He can now go qualify for a second house. But if you max out your debt to income ratio, usually you can't. So this is a smart move that's gonna say, hey, a different house will set me up for being able to actually buy more houses down the road instead of being stuck with this one, and it might actually get taxing. Brother, honestly, from at least where I'm standing, you're making a really, really good decision.
Yeah, I feel great about it. I think one of the other things I just want to throw in there real quick is that you're going to get a lot of pressure. You're going to feel a lot of pressure to move quick, to do things quickly, especially in today's market, right? Rates are so volatile, housing prices are so unknown that your realtor and your lender, yes, they want to help you, they want to work with you, but they also want you to buy, right? They don't make money until you buy. So they might seem like your friend and seem like they're giving you the best advice, but they're going to somewhat pressure you into buying, right? And you're gonna feel that pressure that this is the best deal, that nothing else is gonna beat this, right? That it's just gonna get worse. And it's like, no, there's gonna be the next house, right? There's gonna be the better opportunity, the better deal. And what Kris always says is the best thing to do is delay gratification, right? Don't go for the big thing, don't go for the most expensive thing right now. Do the smart move, wait for the smart move, and then when that opportunity comes, take advantage of it then.
Super excited for Ethan, and I'm super excited for you. I hope this inspires you to make a move on your first house. If you already own one, make a move on your next house, but do it as smart as possible. And to help you do that, here's my gift. I wrote this book. This is 5 steps to how you become a multimillionaire, and it's called Have It All. And this is the 5th book that I've written. This bestseller is designed to help you make 5 specific types of investments, one of them being real estate. And what this can do is this can literally set you up in time to be a mega millionaire. So click the link below, grab a free copy of it, enjoy. Ethan, let me ask you, do you want to own one home or many homes?
Many homes.
So he's got to master the game of passive investing. And if you want to start your journey of passive investing 101, click right here, watch this video, and let me get you started.